Hello and welcome to another video. I think it's been like a week or something like that. Oh, almost a week. I've been pretty busy with work, but basically I wanted to create a video to practice some lines under fuwalos and see how well it is. And then also I will need to figure out if running 2 of the fusion spell is really necessary and if it really, provides benefits. Because, well, basically, I'm still playing the same build with basically the heavy Asamina build with Deptors and no link monsters. And it went pretty good at the previous locals. I went 3-2, which is not amazing, but one of my losses was against Malice, where I got shifted game 2 and game 3. And then my other loss was to Mermail, which I just don't really have a lot of non-engine for Mermail, and then they just do Mermail things. I lost the dice rolls, so, it happens. But my other matches, I feel like I played them pretty well, and I beat, I feel like, a particularly hard opponent who often goes to YCSs and often tops YCSs, so I was kind of proud of that, I guess. And then yeah, and then I have been pretty busy with work, so I have not really spent too much time on practicing and stuff like that. I do want to start looking at the new Alliance inside cards, but the thing is, I still have a couple of things left for this deck that I wanted to figure out, so I figured I'd make a video for this deck again, and maybe the next one will be on Alliance Inside, or maybe I'll make another video on this deck because I do like it a lot. And I'll just quickly go over it. I think nothing is changing here in regards to monsters, because it's pretty much just 5 1-0s and then 3 L7 and 3 Sylvies. So that will be 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 monsters. And then for the engine spell traps, cost 3 Deptors and 3 Wanteds and 3 Tails, and then a Betrayal, a Deception, a Hallowed, and then 2 fusion spells. And so with 11 monsters, this becomes 21 and then 25. And basically I don't feel like my experience with White Forest, this format, and I guess also past this format, but my experience has been that it is not really to the benefit of White Forest to go very much below 25 engine. I think you definitely can do something like 23 engine or 22. But basically, put in simple terms, I really want to see 3 engine cards and 2 non-engine cards. I think that is where White Forest is strongest. It can also function just with 2 engine cards sometimes. And with 1 engine card, you really need to see, you know, your 1-card starters basically. And there's not too many. That's Silset, Sylvie, and Wanted. So only 9 1-card starters. I guess still a 2, so 10. Only 10 cards that work if you draw them as the one-off. Of course, then you have a ton more cards that work when you draw them as 2-offs. Tails becomes live, Debtors maybe becomes live. And then I feel like the sweet spot is having 3 White Forest or Asamina, just 3 engine cards. That is where you can push through a lot and play a lot. And so when you just look at, the basic numbers, if you want to draw 3 out of 5 cards as engine, that's 60% of your deck that needs to be engine. And in a 40-card deck, that is 24 cards that makes 60%. And so I'm at 25 right now, and the reason is that there are, of course, cards that don't really do too much. Like, for example, the Trap card and the Diffusion spell can, of course, sometimes do stuff. But most of the time, you have, these cards right here. Like, all these cards here, basically. You have the sets and the Sylvies, the Wanteds on top. Then you have like the Estella, the Witch, the Deception, and the Tails as like your tier 2 engine card. And then you have sort of the Swamp down here, where you just have a bunch of stuff that's not really, doesn't do anything on its own, but can be pretty good if you draw it together. And so, therefore, if you play 24 cards, there's a 60%, you're 60% engine. And then on average, you should open 3 engine cards. But of course, that is just on average. And I think that when a bunch of your engine cards is something like this, that can be pretty powerful in combination, but does not really do anything on its own, you need to be pretty sure that you draw 3 engine cards. And so I think you need to go a bit above 24. Personally, I think so. Could also, of course, just cut down on these, right? You could also cut down on these. And then you'd have, you'd have less 3-card engine openings, but you, of course, also have less quote-unquote bricks, right? So I feel like if you want to play cards like Debtors, Queen Asamina, if you want to play these cards, you need to have a lot of engine so that you actually open them. For example, Asamina Debtors, you really want to open this with a simple spells card, right? It doesn't really make sense not to play a lot of engine if you're running this card. So yeah, I'm basically at 25 engine right now, and the reason that I don't go above 25 is that I do think there are some non-engine that can actually help a more than adding more engine. Like, let's go over the non-engine, I guess. So I did make some changes to the non-engine lineup, but that's mostly in side decking, to be honest. If you just take what I am playing, like what I played for last locals, we have 3 Ash, 3 Frost, 3 Goat, then just 1 fuwalos, because I only own 1, and then droplets, and a cold buy and a subversion. So I think like a card like Goat, I think Goat, these ones over here, these cards, when you go first, they can help you just as much as adding another piece of engine would. And also the reason I guess going above 25 engine is also a bit weird is that what would the cards you add be, right? Because I've tried playing multiples at like 3 Estelas, and without toy bags, that is just very risky. And also, when you look at a lot of 3 card combinations in White Forest, Estella usually does not add too much to that 3 card combination. Like if one of your 3 cards is Estella, you know, Estella combined with Elset is not too valuable because, well, if you Elset gets hand trapped, then you can go for Estella, but Estella is just very vulnerable to the second hand trap. And then if Elset does not get hand trapped, then you just you could just have grabbed Estella or Sylvie anyway. So, and also Elset and Estella just eat away at your spells and traps, so it's not always good to draw Estella plus Elset. Also drawing Estella plus Sylvie is not very good, obviously. So it's like adding more Estellas, I don't feel really makes up for any of the weaknesses that this decks have. I think Estella is a really nice one-off because you can search her off of your triple tails and you can go for her in situations where you know she will resolve. For example, if you have an Ilya Sylvia or you know your opponent is not on hand traps. So yeah, adding more Stellas, I don't think. Adding more set as Minas. I have actually for a while played 3 copies of this card, and I do think it's a very nice extender, to be honest. It's just that basically you need to see a Sylvie or your Rusha, and if you see a Sylvie or your Rusha, you're kind of happy anyway. And the thing is that for extending, usually when you have, like, say your Sylvie gets hand trapped and you can summon as Elset as Mina, that's like the ideal scenario where Elset as Mina is super good. In that case, when your Sylvie gets hand trapped, it's also pretty likely that you're just sitting with one of your 3 tails in hand, and you can just use tails to grab the Elset as Mina. And then, you know, there's a lot of hands where Elset as Mina does not really do anything. You can definitely play more than one, and I do think it might be worthwhile. But it's also a question that she's not really a Sinful Spoils card either, so it's like I do want to maximize the number of Sinful Spoils cards in my deck. And I think what some of the non-engine here just do a little more to extend your plays than she does, but you could maybe play more than one of this card. And then I think the last card you could play more of is the, where is it? The Deception, basically. I wonder where I put it. Deception. Because this can actually be a pretty good extender if you go first. Like, for example, if you open LZ and she get ashed, then you can just tribute her for Deception. And you know they just used Ash, so you can feel pretty comfortable in resolving the Deception. The issue is just that, and I have tried running multiple Deceptions. The issue is just that you don't really want to lead with Deceptions if you can avoid it, because it's pretty crucial that Deception resolves. If Deception doesn't resolve, it's very hard to get to the Hallowed Asamina, and your endboard will be much weaker in this particular build of the deck if you don't get to your Asamina engine. And so a lot of the time it's better to search the Deception off of Witch, or in particular Asamina set, once you get to go play and have cleared out the most hand traps. Of course, some people will sit on the Ash and wait until you use it, until you play Deception. But that is still nice, because then you can sort of get to do a lot of stuff without being ashed, and then you get ashed on the Deception, rather than, you know, you open up with Deception, it gets ashed, and you might not have another play. So I do feel like using Deception as a starter is very risky, because Ash is of course the most common hand trap, and that you ideally want to go into this later in your combo when you feel like it's more protected and more guaranteed to resolve. So that's what I think is the downside to playing multiple Deceptions. But of course it does help you play, so it does increase the consistency of your deck. And I will also say that the benefits of this card increases the more monster hand traps, or just the more monsters you play in the deck. So if you feel like you need to play a lot of monster hand traps in your non-engine lineup, then I think multiples of Deception could be pretty nice, because it does fix your hand. Like, you know, if you open a bunch of White Forest monsters that all want to send spell traps to the graveyard, and you open a bunch of monster hand traps, that could be really bad. But then if you also open Deception, you can, you know, go for the Deception, then have it get hand trapped, but then the Deception is still on the field, and so you can use it as a spell trap, send it to the graveyard for cost, and then continue playing. So I think it maybe becomes better the more hand traps you're playing. Obviously, it's pretty bad going second. Also, I do sometimes miss having two of these in rotation, because basically for the same reason that I'm playing 2 copies of the fusion spell, sometimes you have the first one in the graveyard and you want to search the second one. Of course, you cannot do that if you only have one in your deck. And Deception can be pretty good as an endboard piece in the right matchup. If you know that you're playing against a mid-range deck, like I think something like Raichu or Blue Eyes, or maybe a Fiendsmith variant, where you know that the game will, you know, last a couple of turns, Deception can be really good for pushing lethal. And then, of course, it's also a pretty good endboard piece when you get close to time. And sometimes you just can't search it if it's in your graveyard, and it will be in your graveyard for most of the time. And sometimes you want it to be in the graveyard because you want it to set itself in the end step. So you don't really want to go wanted target the deception, you know, to shuffle it in or put it on the bottom of the deck, because you kind of want that extra value of having the deception set during the end phase, so that you have maybe a spell trap for your Diabell on your opponent's turn. And so that is why running 2 deceptions is something I'm considering, because I am also considering upping the number of monster hand traps in my main deck. And then, of course, adding more deceptions does make the deck weaker to something to go when you go second. Whereas, you know, the running double fusion spell, where the fusion spell is actually something you could play going second and use it effectively. The deception is almost always pretty dead when you go second. It's something you want to have when you've cleared the board, or when you know that you'll be able to play, and you know they won't interrupt it. But until you get to that point, you really don't want to see it in your hand. But then, you know, of course, it's not too bad either to just play a couple of cards in your main deck that is a bit more, you know, skewed towards going first, right? Well, I'm also playing the Betrayal, and a lot of people are playing, you know, Woes or APs in the main to just have that extra power going first. I feel like an extra copy of Deception is actually better than those cards in terms of going first main deck power, because the Deception, unlike these trap cards, actually helps you play the game and can be used as a starter in a pinch, can also be used as an extender, especially when you have multiple different Asamina cards you can search with this. So normally, of course, in normal White Forest decks, you just search the wanted, and then sometimes Asamina is set. In this deck, you can also search Debtors as an endboard piece, or you can search Queen as an extender. So having the Deception and Rotation, you know, on your follow-up turn, this is a lot stronger than in a regular deck, right? So yeah, I think playing 2 copies of Deception could be my solution here, but of course I will need to cut a card, and that might be the second copy of the fusion spell. Now, and just as a last thing here, I guess the other card that people might consider playing multiples of to play more, if they want to play more engine, is Witch. And I think the only reason for me personally to play more Witches would be if I'm scared of Bestials, because Witch is a really important card in the deck, and you don't want to get her to get Bestialed. But so far, she has not get Bestialed much for me. Actually, my opponents usually prioritize other targets, like the Asminal set, or my Diabell or something like that to Bestial. So I have not had that issue yet. I don't think that which is a good enough engine card, like as a starter or as an extender, that you'd want to play her in multiples. I think that Wanted is the card you want to play in multiples, obviously. I think it's also 3 Wanted, 1 Witch. Gives you a decent chance of opening either. And in a lot of games, of course, you just want to search Wanted anyway, as soon as you can, right? Wanted or Deception is your top 2 things that you always search. So I don't feel like adding more witches really benefits too much. Yeah. But so anyway, I was talking about, you know, the number of copies of the fusion spell, and I've been running 2 for the last couple of locals, and I do feel like 2 copies have come up a lot. I've actually been searching this card almost all the time. And I didn't even play woes or APs in my deck just because I wanted to search this instead. I think it's such a good card that I always wanted in rotation. But I don't know if playing 2 is necessary, because in a lot of cases it is of course a brick. Sometimes it can be used as a board breaker going second. Sometimes you can use it going first if you open other engine cards. But on its own, of course, it doesn't do anything. Unlike a card like Deception, which on its own does actually get you somewhere. So I do want to figure out if playing 2 fusion spells is really necessary. I don't think that if you go uninterrupted that it's necessary, because unless you specifically open the fusion spell and you are forced to use it as a resource, like you're forced to send it to the graveyard for a white forest monster, and then afterwards you're forced to use it as a simple spells card to perform a fusion summon. In those scenarios where you need to send it to the graveyard, you open it and you need to send it to the graveyard before you get to want it and get to shuffle it back and get to research it or research it with the Mauricio Lago pop. In those cases, I do think that having 2 is nice, but at the same time, when you're running 2, you're also increasing the likelihood of that happening, right? So it's sort of maybe a bit paradoxical that when you open this you'd want the second one, but if you play the second one you're also more likely to open it. So I do think running 2 is very nice, and I feel like pretty safe when I run 2, because I know that if I have 1 in rotation I don't need to be so careful with it. I can send it to the graveyard for cost. I can use it as a simple spells card, because I know that I have another one in my deck. Of course, it is basically always the simple spells card you choose to target with Wanted to put on the bottom of your deck and reset. So the only cases where it's nice to have 2 most of the time is when you don't get to Wanted, or when you need to target something else with Wanted. Maybe you need to use Wanted early to draw a card, and then just to be able to play, and then you draw your starter and you could do your combo. But now because we do use one of these in our combo, if you have already used the Wanted and you can't shuffle it back, then you won't have it as an end board piece. Then again, maybe that's all right. You could just go for Deception as your end board piece, maybe. So I think it's one of those scenarios where maybe I should just try to only play 1 and then see if it comes up that I lose a game because I didn't have the second one. If that comes up, and if it comes up often, or even just once, where it becomes very apparent and I'm in a situation where, damn, I really needed the second one, then I feel like I should choose the second one. But if I play 2, I will obviously never really, I'm much less likely to notice it than if I play 1 and lose because of it. I will immediately notice. So yeah. Thinking of removing 1 fusion spell and playing 1 extra Deception. Although I could also just add 1 extra Deception and go to 41. But I actually don't really like going to 41 in this deck, because you really just want to see your Lisette and your Sylvie. you really just want to see your debtors and your wanted. Like there is just a lot of cards here that you want to see, so don't really feel like going above 40. Makes too much sense, to be honest. So maybe, I should just cut one fusion spell, add one more debtors, one more deception. I don't know. My mouth is hurting a little bit talking today. I don't know why. I have this tea as well. I totally forgot to say. Yeah, but in terms of non-engine, wow, that was a long tangent. But it was also a thing I wanted to discuss today. In terms of non-engine, what I mean by adding more than 25 engine does maybe not help you as much as just adding some non-engine that actually helps you play. And, I think the best card for this is something like Talents, because if you look at what really hurts our deck is Droll and Charmies and Ash, basically. Ash and Deception, Droll, sometimes people also use the Charmies in the main phase. And, just a lot of hand traps. If we get trolled, the Talents is like one of the best cards we can have in our hand, because we can look at their hand and try to, take a starter and then just try to survive. And if we get just hit by a flood of hand traps, just drawing 2 is often the best sort of engine you could add, right? Because if we're playing 25 non-engine and we are drawing 2 cards, we are very likely to draw into engine. So this is, I see, more of an extender engine card than adding, more Asset Asaminas, or adding more copies of Witch, or adding more copies of Deception even. Because as long as you have one play that you can get started, and as long as the hand trap is obviously not Imperm or Impulse or Purge, then this card can get you into more engine almost all the time, especially now that we are playing just 40 cards and 25 engine, so there's a very high likelihood that this will draw into more engine. So that's basically why I play it. It's like good against the thing that hurts us the most, which is draw, and is a really strong extender, right? And if you don't get interrupted, you don't need it as an extender. You never need it as an extender if you don't get stopped anyway. So yeah, that's basically why. Also the reason for cold buy, right? I basically sometimes I call cold buy an extender because it just makes your play go through, obviously. So it's kind of like, when you get hand trapped and you play cold buy, it's kind of like just playing an exact copy of the card that just got hand trapped as an extender, right? So, these 4, I feel like are just basically engine extenders instead of being more, yeah. And then Black Goat Laughs is a card that is super necessary, I feel like, because of course you need to send spells and traps to the graveyard, right? And the White Forest, a lot of the spells and traps we have do have the effect to add themselves back and set themselves. So something like the fusion spell, it's really nice because then you don't run out of resources. But when you get but there's not that many of them, right? You have Tails, and you have the fusion spell, and then if you choose to play woes, you have woes. If you choose to play APs, you have APs. But apart from that, there's not too much, right? So right now I only have 5 cards in my deck that have that clause where if you send it to the graveyard, it can reset itself. And so we really just want more of that. And what that is just that something you can send to the graveyard for cost that actually provides you with value, even if your play gets interrupted or hand trapped. And so 5 cards that do that, I feel like is not enough. You could maybe also count Deception, because you can use Deception, and then if they hand trap it, it's still just a resource on the field you can send. So maybe you could say 6 card here. I don't think that's enough. Like 6 cards that are good to send to the graveyard, because for your White Forest monsters, that's not enough. You want to see more. And Debtors is actually also a card that is pretty nice sometimes to send to the graveyard, because it does have a pretty potent graveyard effect. However, it does require you to be able to play. So, you know, sometimes you don't get to use it, but yeah, it's still a pretty nice card to send to the graveyard, honestly. But yeah, you pretty much want more stuff that you can send to the graveyard. And if you look at the engine cards, there's just not too much. There's woes, there's APs, there's a sorceress, right? And all of those cards are just cards that are kind of bad on their own, because, you know, they just don't do a whole lot, or they're just bad going second, right? Woes and APs are just terrible going second. And Goat is like a card that actually is pretty powerful on its own, and it's also pretty powerful if you send it to the graveyard. So it's just yeah, I feel like it's better to play Black Goat last than it is to play more engine, because you're pretty likely to get to a White Forest card anyway. So sometimes you just want some things in your hand that can help you play, and that you can send to the graveyard and feel good about it, even if you would get hand trapped, and Black Coat as that card. So I think all these 7 cards are pretty much like engine, non-engine, I guess, sort of way. They just help you play when you go first really well, and helps smooth your deck. They help you against all the things that our deck is weak against, basically. And then there's Ash, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know if I'm going to be main decking Ash for the next locals. I might put it in the side deck. I know that sounds crazy, but it is basically my only hand trap, apart from, the one fuwalos. And I just haven't felt like it does too much in my game ones when I'm going second. Like, when I'm going second in game 1, I have a very low probability of opening a hand trap, of course, because I only have 4. And most of the time, when I just open, 1 Ash. And in those scenarios, I do think Ash is a powerful hand trap, and sometimes it can definitely stop your opponent or be impactful against your opponent, even if it is your only hand trap. But the matchups where it can be impactful is usually against like mid-range decks. I guess apart from, it is pretty good against White Forest, right? But against the decks that I lost to last locals, which was Malice and Mermail, Ash does not really do anything, and doesn't really do too much against a lot of other really strong combo decks. So I have considered just playing draws in the main instead of this. But and then of course the other thing is that, it's of course the reason I play it is that when I go first, it's good against Chamis. But I don't really feel like too many people are maining Chamis at my locals. Of course, most people, if they have fuwalos, they will main it. But I just don't think a lot of people at my locals have fuwalos. So I was considering just putting the Ash Blossom in the side deck and just putting in it going first, because that's usually when my opponents will be on Chamis. So yeah. Yeah, basically these 9, I guess I guess fuwalos I would always play. I would play 3 if I had it. It's really strong in this deck. It's kind of the perfect hand trap because it helps you against your really bad matchups game 1 if you happen to draw this. And then when you go first, it's actually also pretty nice because you can just tribute this or send it to the graveyard without really having to worry because it's dead anyway. So yeah, I would definitely play more if I had more. And then for the last stuff, I definitely am considering in my current build, I actually move the subversion and droplet and 1 droplet to the side deck, and I put in 2 draws. And the reason is that there is a lot of matchups right now. I feel like draw is pretty good against like Rigel, Mitsurugi, Blue Eyes. There's a lot of Blue Eyes at my locals. You know, Mermail, of course, it's really crucial to be able to win game 1 against those decks if you... No, maybe not against Rigel, but against these combo decks, when you lose the dice roll, you just really want to have a chance of stopping them, and draw is like one of the only cards. And of course, if you just play 2 draws in your main, it's not like you have a big likelihood of seeing it, but, you know, going from certain death to maybe having a 25% chance of being able to win the game because you happen to draw a Lockbird, I think that's actually pretty valuable. And you know, of course, it's also very good when you go first against them, and Troll Lockbird is also a spellcaster, and we do play triple tails. Actually, a normal summoning Troll and Lockbird and then activating tails. You might not believe it, but it is actually still full combo, if you don't get interrupted, of course. So Troll, I feel like do have a value add. So I'm actually just gonna do it now. I'm just gonna put 2 draws here and put these in the side. I do feel like I do feel like taking out the ash blossoms and playing like taking out the ash or putting them in the side deck rather, and then playing a draw and 2 meows and in my main deck. And the reason is that if I'm going first, and that is also why I want to practice against fuwalos today, I do actually feel that this deck has a pretty good fuwalos line. But the thing is, I haven't really practiced it too much because there's not a lot of fuwalos at locals, and the times that I have gotten fuwalos, I've been fortunate enough to have the ash blossom, at least in recent times. And so, you know, I do think that ash is a nice counter to fuwalos when you go first, even in game 1, if people are playing fuwalos at my locals in their main. But I do also feel like you could put ash in the side deck, just side it in as a going first card, and then game 1, if you win the die roll but you get fuwalos, I feel like you could still do a pretty nice line either way. That's basically it. And that is what I wanted to practice today, basically. You could have, of course, also just play, you know, 3 draws and 2 ashes, but I wanted to try something, I guess, a bit radical, and trying to put in, you know, the full 3 copies of draw, and then just to stop all the combo. It's just good against a ton of decks. And then just 3 Charmies, because I do really like the Charmies, and I know that Meows is not really good against a lot of decks, but it is good against Malice. And so, you know, going up to 3 copies of a card that is good against Malice for your game 1, if you lose the dice roll against Malice, you know, this is basically the same as fuwalos against Malice, or even maybe slightly better. So this should give me, you know, more of a chance going first against, or game 1 against Malice if I lose the die roll. And, you know, then it maybe, you know, cantrips or something like that for against other decks. But yeah, I was thinking of doing this lineup here. And the idea is, this obviously does not help me going first compared to, you know, Ash Blossom. But I feel like if I win the die roll, I'm already pretty favored, you know? And I feel like, again, this is like a theory, but I feel like I should be pretty decent against fuwalos in this build, because, you know, normally you say, oh, White Forest loses to fuwalos, but this is just a more grindy build of White Forest, and it relies more on the Asmina cards, and it's not like you need to go full wombo in order to be able to win, you know, even when you go first. You can do a ton of stuff even without going full combo. So, but maybe it is too risky to remove Ash from the main deck, but that was basically what I was thinking of. And then using Ash as a going first card, basically just side out the Charmies and then side in the Ashes instead when I go first. Then side out the droplets for a couple of trap cards, and that's pretty much it. And then if draw is terrible, then it's probably because I'm playing against Malice, so Lancia should be good. And if I'm not playing against Malice and draw is terrible, then I'm playing against some weird rogue deck or a trap deck, and I feel like I should be pretty alright in those matchups. Anyway, and if I'm going second and draw is terrible, maybe Ash is pretty good, you know, or I can just side in a couple of more breakers. That's the idea. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna be practicing with today. And then also, I didn't really talk too much about it, but just 2 copies of Forbidden Droplet. It's basically just because I wanted to play 6 hand traps, 6 high impact hand traps, and so I needed to make a cut. And I feel like Droplet is, you know, the last copy of Droplet could just go to the side deck anyway. So yeah. And then I could talk about my plans for the side deck. I was actually thinking of just playing 2 copies of Woes instead of 1 of each here, 1 APs, 1 Woes. And the reason is I just don't really think that APs does too much for the deck, to be honest. I don't think it's necessary to win the game at all, basically. And I think that Woes is a lot stronger against Draw and Charmies. And Draw and Charmies and Shifter also, Woes is also better when you get Shifted. So, you know, Woes is better when you get Drawed, Charmied, and Shifted, and those 3 types of cards are the biggest problems you could face when you go first post side deck. So I feel like just opening a copy of Woes is a lot better than opening a copy of APs, and I feel like you never really want to search APs anyway, at least not in this build and not in my combo. So yeah, probably playing 2 copies of Woes instead. And then I am also thinking of changing this here. I have played the last couple of locals, you know, Harveys and Lightning Storms, and I've almost never used them. Like I've almost never sided them in, because I do side out some engine going second, but the thing is I usually side in, you know, draws against almost everything, right? And then I rarely take the Ash Blossom out unless it's like against Malice or something like that. And so it's just been the case where if I need to side in the draws, and you know, I'm playing Ash in the main, and then there's just not really enough room really to play these 3 copies. unless I'm setting out like 6 copies of engine. I do side out 3 every time, 3 engine every time, and then also sometimes 4, sometimes 5, depending on how much non-engine I feel like I need. But the thing is that it's never like I feel like, oh, Harpies and Lightning Storm is gonna win me the game, because the matchups that I need a lot of non-engine against is the heavy combo decks, right? Like Malice and Mermail, and maybe also Blue Eyes. I haven't played too much against Blue Eyes, but that can also combo pretty heavily. And against those decks, you just want to have things that stop them on their turn. You don't really need a lot of plays on your turn anyway. Like, opening Harpies and Storm is nice, but usually the game is decided by that point. You need to, against Mermail, it doesn't really matter that you draw board breakers. You need to have something that stops them on their turn. The same is kind of true against Malice, right? These cards can definitely be nice, but again, like if they full wombo, yeah. And then against something like Blue Eyes, it's the same thing. Like it can definitely be nice to have, but a lot of the time you would prefer something that stops them on their turn, basically. And so I never really sided them in. So I was thinking of removing the 2 Lightning Storms and having the Feather Duster, the Subversion, and the Droplet as my sort of generic going second cards that I can just side in against pretty much any matchup. This is also really good against Raichu. It's pretty much good against all mid-range decks. And something like Raichu, you can side in like going second against Raichu. You probably don't want the meows, right? So you side in Ashes, probably, and then you need something more, and so you side out a 4 engine, and you put in the last Ash Blossom and these 3, and that's pretty good, I think. Yeah, and then I do also want to play more copies of this card, Typhoon, so let me just get them actually from my binder. I know it sounds like a meme thing, and it partially is. This was like, I was taking Sorceress out of my deck, and I was just, before local started, I was just trying to figure out what should I put in my side deck instead of Sorceress, and I figured, okay, why not try some janky one-off, right? And then with some help from the people there, we decided on Typhoon, because it should actually be pretty strong against Blue Eyes. And there is so many Blue Eyes players at my locals. So I was thinking, okay, sure, let's go for it. Let's side in a card purely for the Blue Eyes matchups, because there are so many Blue Eyes players. I don't think it's particularly good in other matchups, maybe against Yubel, but otherwise not really. And yeah, it's pretty much just for the True Light in the Blue Eyes matchup, and I have yet to try it. I know it's supposed to be pretty good against Blue Eyes, so it's not just some weird thing. It's basically a stronger Ghost Soaker, because you don't have to use it when they activate True Light. You can just sit on it, and you can of course also use it on your own turn if you draw it for your 6th card. And yeah, it's also, dodges talents and thrust. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I was this is like a purely a Blue Eyes counter card, but I wanted to try it, and so I'm just gonna try it and see if I fail miserably using it, and if I do, I'm not gonna play it again. But that's pretty much the idea. And so yeah, that's pretty much it for non-engine. I keep bouncing back and forth on whether or not to main deck Ash, because it does also really hurt if you win the die roll, right, and you get fuwalos. You're like, Oh, damn. I wish I just had the Ash Blossom, right? I wish I did not side it out. But, I feel like, yeah, and that's the thing we need to practice, I guess. I need to practice lines under fuwalos. And the big question, I guess, in terms of lines under fuwalos is basically whether or not I should main woes, because I do think that woes is one of the stronger cards when you are under fuwalos. So right now, of course, I'm only playing woes in my side deck, and so I do wonder if I should maybe main a copy of woes, just because when I'm taking out the Ash Blossoms, I'm making myself weaker to fuwalos game 1, and maybe I should put in a woes just to be able to play under fuwalos game 1. But then I figured, wait, let's just figure out what the lines actually look under fuwalos. because then maybe after that point we can decide whether or not the woes in the main deck is necessary. I really don't want to put woes in the main deck because it's not a simple spoil spell, and I would have to take out the second fusion spot. I think that's pretty much the only cut I can make. I could also cut Adepters, but I just really don't want to do that. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep the woes in mind and maybe grab it out of my side deck if I see that we need it during the combo. But otherwise, I just wanted to do a bit of practicing against fuwalos and see, how can we actually play under fuwalos, and do we need to play woes in the main in order to have a decent chance against fuwalos game 1? Yeah, so I'm just gonna go to the bathroom real quick and I'll be back with some testing. All right, I'm back, and I guess I should explain what my idea under fuwalos is, and it's basically pretty simple. It's that instead of going for a lot of extra dex plays and going into the full Asamina combo and the full Wirefrost combo, just try to get a bunch of spells and traps to set on the field, and then we pass. And in particular, these three, and I guess also woes. And so the thing is that Adepters can be used to just fusion summon on your opponent's turn. The fusion spell, of course, can be used to summon on your opponent's turn. Betrayal is pretty much an Omni negate on your opponent's turn. And woes lets you go into, your Book of Eclipse or your Diabell, which leads to a Book of Eclipse on your opponent's turn. So, idea is pretty simple. We try to set as many of these up, giving our opponents as few draws as we possibly can, and then we pass the turn. And yeah, that's pretty much the idea. Of course, we need to consider how we search these cards, and pretty much we need to do at least one synchro summon, right? Because we need to use Asamina Elset, or Elset Asamina as she is now called. We need to use her as a synchro material in order to be able to go into our Sinful Spoils combo. And if we want to have our Diabell Star with our Betrayal Trap, which is our Omni Negate, then we pretty much have to go for a synchro summon to be able to search that. And so I think it's pretty inevitable that we will give our opponent one draw under fuwalos. And you know, sometimes you are not able to use the LZ Asamina for the synchro summon of Rishiela, because you need to use Rishiela to search Asamina LZ, right? And so in those cases, you do obviously need to then summon Diabel and go give them a second draw. And that's pretty much where woes comes in, that if we are able to use Asamina LZ to summon Rishiela, then we don't want to continue and summon out Diabel, because that would just give our opponent an extra draw. However, we also don't want the Rishiela just sitting there on the field, because she doesn't really do anything on her own on our opponent's turn. And so setting woes enables us to make Diabel during our opponent's turn, and that's pretty powerful, right? So that's pretty much the idea behind woes. But maybe we are not able to set up that scenario where we use Asamina LZ or LZ Asamina as the synchro summon for Rishiela. Maybe it's just not consistent enough. And so we always need to make Diabel anyway and give our opponents 2 draws anyway, because it's just not a lot of lines that let us use LZ Asamina for our first synchro summon. So that is what we are, I guess, trying to figure out. And I'll just be assuming that my opponent uses Fuwa in the draw phase. I know that sometimes they use it in the main phase, and I think that's, you know, can be pretty good as well. So I don't really know what is correct, to be honest. But just to make things less complicated, I'm just gonna assume that they shotgun it. You know, game 1. We are kind of looking at a game 1 scenario. Our opponent does not know what we're playing, so maybe it's not normal to shotgun the fuwalos, because maybe they can just, maybe they're like a trap deck, or maybe it's like, you know, I have no idea. Okay, so let's just see our hand here. A Deception, an LZ, a Talons, a Sylvie, and okay, so we actually hard drew the Asamina LZ. Alright, so let's just say that our opponent uses the fuwalos here, and we are choosing what to do. And so, okay, the idea is that we want to get to as many of our spells and traps, our inboard spells and traps as possible, and then we just want to pass the turn. So, in this scenario, it's pretty simple actually, just to go Sylvie, and then we just add the fusion spell, right? Or, you know, all woes. You know, could also add woes, I guess, in this scenario. We just go summon LZ Asamina. Oh, where's my extra deck? Oh, it's here. Go summon LZ Asamina, and we make Rishiela. And here we'll give them 1 draw. Do I have a dice? I don't actually have a dice. Let me just go find a dice real quick. Be right back. Alright, I'm back. We summon Rishiela, we give them 1 draw. We say Chainlink 1, LZ, Asamina, Chainlink 2, Rishiela, send this to the graveyard. Then we just, I guess, grab the woes. I don't think there's anything we'd grab other than woes in this situation. Like on the fuwalos, like tails and extending does not do anything, because can't really use extra bodies for anything. So yeah, this is definitely a situation where we'd want woes in our main deck. So we add woes here, and then using a set Asamina, we'll add wanted. And yeah, then here we just want to, I guess, use LZ because there's no real downside to it, honestly. We just, oh sorry, and the fusion spell will set itself. We can just use LZ here, there's no real downside to it, so we just use LZ. And then it can even hand trap this, it doesn't really matter, honestly. It's just that we can use it for free, so we might as well. And might as well just grab, probably just grab a Stella here, and then our woes will set itself. And then we can just go like Deception, and we can just tribute the Stella, and then we just search for the debtors, and we just set the debtors, and then we activate wanted, and we add Diabell Star, and we just summon Diabell Star. I guess we can use the tactics in our hand. We could probably also just use this LZ on the field. Probably doesn't matter too much. And we set the betrayal. And so this is kind of funny. This is kind of the ideal scenario I was imagining. Because here, and then we just pretty much pass on this. I guess we could have sent the Deception in the graveyard in order to get an extra draw off of wanted. If we want to maybe draw into non-engine, let's see what we have. Would we have drawn into non-engine? And that's like draw or Ash. I guess we don't main Ash really, so it's like draw or goat. We would have drawn another tactics. But I maybe it is correct to send the Deception, but I kind of like having the Deception because it does actually do something on your opponent's turn. Does drain them, and you can send it to the graveyard with Diabell. Also send it will come up, I think. So basically what we do here is that on our opponent's turn, probably pretty early, probably as soon as they commit to their first play, because if we just shotgun woes, they might have a second fuwalos actually, and that will be pretty bad. So we need to make sure they commit to something, I feel like, before, but just like in principle, we just really want to early on use the woes and then, you know, summon. I guess we don't have a second copy of Asaminel set, which would be nice in this scenario, to be honest. So we summon out LZ here, and we go into Diabell pretty much early on. Diabell will trigger, and oh, let me just move this here so you can see the graveyard. Diabell will trigger, we'll add back the woes, and now now we pretty much just can do a bunch of different things actually. So one thing we can do is that you know, when they go for an effect or something like that, when we have a moment to book, we just send this woes to the graveyard, and we summon out the Book of Eclipse. And then we, of course, get a trigger from Stella to summon itself back, and LZ to add her to the hand. And then also woes to set itself. So we go summon these two here. And of course also the book. Oh, and LZ gets added to the hand, which is pretty crucial. And we can, of course, activate our debtors to get our Omni Negate, our Ilia Silvira. We can also do something like, you know, activate the fusion spell here, and then chain the debtors, and then say, okay, we send these two to the graveyard and summon out our saint. And then we go use these three here, probably, to make a guardian chimera. And then here on a new chain, we can do draw 1 and pop 2 with our guardian chimera. Then we can do saint, and we can, you know, either summon the Omni if we want to, which probably is what we want to. I think probably we could also summon Moragina, because Moragina will trigger when we go to activate our betrayal to pop 2 extra, but I mean, we just pop 2 with the guardian chimera, so I think we'll be fine to summon out Delia Silvera. Then we can use one Omni here, sending this Witch to the graveyard to negate something. And then Witch will trigger, and we'll send one of the cards in our hand to summon her back. And then she will trigger again. And let us set some Sinful Spoils card, which, you know, you could take diffusion spells. Since we play 2, you could also just take Wanted, just to make sure you have access to Witch on the next turn. And yeah, I feel like that should be enough to get you to survive. And then during the end step, you have a Deception here to set itself back. And on the follow-up turn, you have a summon back in the graveyard with Sylvie. You have a draw off of Wanted. You have your Adapters, which can summon an Asmina monster from your graveyard. So you can just instantly summon Elset Asmina. Or, you know, if you used your Silver, which you probably would have, you can just... you actually can't summon that back because it's not properly summoned. But yeah, you can just summon out the Elset Asmina, you know, the Saint, if they choose to deal with that. And you do also have... you know, all these 3 cards available, plus your draw of a turn. And yeah, there's just one draw for your opponent, because we just summoned all the extra deck monsters during our opponent's turn. And I guess that this was the most ideal scenario, because we hard drew the one-off Elset Asmina. So let's just try again. It probably will not be as good as that. Because in that case, we only needed to give them one draw. And yeah, we even hard drew the Deception. But I think maybe you are able to see my idea. And yeah, this Woes is technically in the side deck. Maybe you're able to see the idea here that we can actually put up a lot of interruptions without giving our opponent, without special summoning from the deck or extra deck very much. And, you know, might not always be as extreme as that, but I feel like 1 to 2 draws should be doable. So yeah, of course, if our opponent plays Purulia, it's quite different, right? Purulia is very strong against our deck, and we basically need to pivot into a Stella as soon as possible when we're under Purulia, and then we need to do our Asmina engine. But it's hard to get to the Asmina engine without Asmina set, and you cannot really summon Asmina set from deck. At least only with Saint Asmina, right? But so normally using the Wild Forest engine, you'd have to add a set Asmina to your hand and summon it from the hand. So it's very likely you are giving your opponent at least 2 draws, and that is, you know, and that is of course, you know, if you go for a Stella. So yeah. And, of course, if they have multiple charmies, then, it just gets harder and harder from that point, of course. So, yeah, kind of banking. The thing with not including Ash Blossoms is that I'm kind of banking on a lot of people at my locals are maining like fuwalos. I think some of the top players are probably doing it, but a lot of people just don't have fuwalos or maybe not maining it. Alright, so let's see here. Okay, so this is a bit different, I guess. So let's remove the dice and let's see. So yeah, this is not as good at all, right? However, it still could be decent, to be honest. So we obviously just do not really want to use a Stella here when we're on the fuwalos. So we pretty much just go normal Sylvie, right? And then we could just go add tails. We just go activate tails. And I think we just get, as Mina said, to be honest, because we don't really have too many plans on making Diabelle. And then we summon her and we just go into Rigella again. So they get to draw 1 here. And then we send the fusion spell for cast here. And chaining 1, as said, Asmina, chaining 2, Rigella. And then again, here in this scenario, we would probably like to search woes. The only other target we really have is to search the fusion spell, but we opened the fusion spell. So yeah, and then we just search either wanted or deception, I guess. Deception will give you access to debtors on your opponent's turn. So that could be pretty nice, to be honest. And which will get you access to betrayal. So which one is best? I don't actually know which one is best. I would maybe lean towards the witch, just because it's nice to have an Omni negate. And then the witch will also give you follow-up. But then again, so will the deception really. Will also give you a bunch of follow-up. Let's try with deception this time, I guess. I guess you can't really get both because, yeah. So your sinful spoils will set itself. And then, well, could we have gotten both, actually? No, I don't think so. We activate deception here. We just tribute our stellar. And we go grab the debtors. We could also grab hallowed here, right? And then make our Rishialago and then search wanted. But that does not really accomplish anything. It just gives your opponent 1 draws, and you could have just searched wanted anyway, right? So it doesn't really make sense, I think. So we could add the debtors here. And then that's pretty much it. We just set the debtors, set the woes. And then, yeah, during our opponent's turn. I mean, with woes, it would be really nice to have multiple Asamino sets, right? Because then we could add a sinful spells when we use it during our opponent's turn. So that could be obviously very nice. But we can't do it right now. But we can also just get to our Estella, right? Because we haven't gotten to our Estella anyway. So we can just go these 2 here into our Diabelle, and then go Diabelle effect, targeting this walls here to add it back. Then at some point we'll like to use the book, or if we can also wait with the book and then just go, okay, Sylvie here to add, to summon back here, and then go LZ effect to add to our hand. And now we can technically make Guardian Chimera with our draw LZ and Sylvie in our hand. If we don't want to do that, we can just use our Diabell maybe and say, okay, use Diabell sending this woes, and then we add, we summon out our Book of Eclipse, then we have Stella comes back and woes sets itself, and then here we probably go for the fusion spell at some point, and we do, you know, probably just these two and L set, so we use these three here to make our Guardian Chimera. We go, then we probably should, yeah, we should chain the Debtors here and then send these to the graveyard to also make Saint, and then we go Guardian Chimera, pop 1, pop 2, draw 1, and then we probably just go Saint, and we summon out the Ilia Sylvia probably, and yeah, so we have one Omni-Negate less because we did not really use, we did not go into Wanted, but we did still get to a bunch of stuff. I think this is better than going for Wanted and setting Betrayal. Yeah, I think so. Although I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But this is still a decent amount of interruptions. Again, in this scenario as well, it was really woes. We needed the woes, and also it would have been nice with a second copy of Ilsetas Mina. So yeah, maybe we should play 2 copies of Ilsetas Mina and a copy of woes, just for the fuwalos counter. I don't really know. But let's try again. So, but you see the idea, right? The idea is that we're just searching a bunch of spells and traps. I do wonder if deception, I guess it matters. It depends on if you have a monster to actually tribute it for deception, right? I guess that's really, the point. If you have that, maybe deception is better. Is there a way to search both? Not really. You cannot get both Debtors and Deception just from that, because, you know, you pretty much need to go Deception into Debtors, and then or you need to go for Wanted, right? There's not really too many other ways of doing it. But I mean, then if you own Deception, you know, maybe we should play multiple copies of Deception because of that. Because if you open Deception or if you open Wanted, you just pretty set. Yeah. Alright, let's see. We have Sylvie, Wanted, Debtors. Okay, Debtors Russia, alright. I mean, again, right, it's pretty much just, it's pretty much just a... I mean, I guess in this scenario, it's almost like, I don't know. We could make the Omni, right? Because we do have, you know, the wanted and the debtors, and we do even have an extra debtors to set, but maybe just go normal Sylvie and add tails, and then go tails, and probably just add, as Mina said, we could also add a set just to get it in rotation, but I think we'll get it in rotation using woes anyway, so maybe just add as Mina said here, and just go summon out, as Mina said, these two here into Rugella, and then go Rugella, send the debtors to the graveyard, and add yeah, and then sorry, I'll set 21 and I guess in this situation we would search we'd search this diffusion spell with Asamina set and woes with Riziella, and I guess we can just summon out Rusha and use her on woes to draw a card, and then have woes set itself, and we can honestly also just use debtors here, summon back the Asamina set. Maybe that's a dumb idea. Oh well, I did it. And then we set here, we just go wanted, and we grab our Diabell Star, and we just go Diabell Star, probably just send this Rusha to the graveyard, summon out, and then set this one, and yeah. So yeah, and then it's one draw again. If we don't have woes, what line do we go for? Because obviously here we're kind of doing the same thing again. We're setting the debtors. I guess it's like a little bit different. We, you know, at some point we go probably just go activate woes here. And I guess we don't even really bother going into the Diabell. No, I don't think so, because here we just probably go for summon out Sylvie and then just go for the book directly here. Summon out the book, and then we do get to search a simple spells card, and here I just want to search Queen, and then, you know, we can at some point, I guess how do you want to do this? We can go well, I guess maybe summoning Diabell would have been a little bit better, although I don't really know actually. Because here we can go like Omni, send off the Diabell to omni-negate something, then on a new chain Then we can do, okay, send maybe this to the graveyard to summon out the Diabell, then go Diabell here, probably set something like, maybe actually set, no, I don't think it makes too much sense to set Deception. Although maybe it could be nice follow-up, so yeah, let's maybe set Deception. And then we can go like Sylvie here, summon back, and then we can go, okay, activate to fusion summon, and just use these three maybe. Summon out the guiding camera, and then have the guiding camera pop 2, and we draw 1, and then do the queen here to summon back, and then we can do Debtors here and just go make these two into, well, this was not the optimal way of doing it, I think. Yeah, it should be maybe have been sequenced a little bit better, and then go Saint here to summon out. But it's still, you know, it's still a bunch of interruptions. I still think this is a pretty decent chance of survival, and we're just trying to survive to the next turn, you know, and we do have a lot of follow-up, so I feel like this should be pretty good. Alright, let's try one more hand here. So yeah, I do feel like I am sort of correct in my assumption that this deck is not actually that bad under fuwalos, and also I do also think that woes is pretty goddamn necessary. Of course, we could try to maybe see what happens if you don't search woes. I mean, then you'd probably have to make the Diabell and give them 2 draws. And then it's also like, what are you searching exactly? Like off of Rushiela? Because, you know, I guess if you don't actually have the fusion spell, you search the fusion spell. So maybe we have just been a bit lucky to be in these scenarios where we don't need to search the fusion spell. Yeah, could be. Let's see. Sylvie, Debtors, Drawn Locker, Debtors, and Goat. Okay, so this should be a pretty minimalistic. I mean, we still have the Debtors for extra stuff, but we go Sylvie here and add Tails. And then the question is, I guess we activate Tails, and then the question is, do we add Elset here or just doesn't mean Elset? I don't feel like Elset. Let's see. So in this scenario, we don't have the fusion spell. And so we can of course search the fusion spell with Elset Asamina, but we would probably like to just search Wanted with Elset Asamina, to be honest. Yeah, that's definitely what we want to do. And so that means that we would search the fusion spell with Rishiela. But of course, then we are kind of incentivized to go into Diabell. Okay, so I'm gonna try 2 different runs with this hand. I'm gonna try to just search Elset here. Yeah, just search Elset here and then go Elset and send Oh, well, I guess we don't really need to search LZ here when we have the debtors. So I guess that's a odd scenario, but I guess we can just search Asamina LZ here. So we just search Asamina LZ, and we go summon out Asamina, LZ Asamina, and we go into our Rishiela, and we send the debtors for cast. We give them one draw. We say set as Mino channel 1 and Richel channel 2, send the debtors for cast. And then I guess I'm gonna try here grabbing the fusion spell and see what happens, and then later I'm gonna try to do what the woes line afterwards. So we add Symphons, the fusion spell and wanted, and then here in this situation we could really just, yeah, it's so tempting to make the Omni negate, but I don't think it's correct, to be honest. In principle it's correct because you are one Omni trace for one card, right? But it just means that we don't make the Omni on their turn. But I don't know, maybe it's, yeah, I don't know. So in this situation here, we pretty much just go wanted, and we search the witch, and we can just go debtors, banishing itself to summon out Desmina set again. We use her again here to make Diabel, and then we give them one extra draw, and we get to add back, I guess the wanted, maybe. Yeah. And then maybe we use this one to summon out here, and then we just send it to the graveyard for Diabel Star. And then we just get the Omni, of course. We set it here, and then we have a bunch of set cards, and we gave them 2 draws this time, so not quite as good. And so how would this play out? I mean, we pretty much yeah, we don't have a ton of stuff here. Don't even really have anything that comes back when we use Diabel, so fusion summoning here is going to be a bit tough. So maybe what we should do is that we say, okay, go to Omni something and go debtors, and then send this to the graveyard to summon out the Omni here. Or we could also summon out this one, send something to the graveyard, and this gets sent for cost here. And then we have a new trigger, and this wants to summon itself back, so we go send maybe we just send this goat to the graveyard, and then we have a trigger here, so we can set our second fusion spell, and then we go maybe for the book here, summon out here this will set itself back. And then we can go fusion here for these two into Saint. And then Saint can go into Morgina. And then we can like use wanted. No, we can't even use wanted. So maybe we should just have gone into the Omni negate. Yeah. Just won't go into the Omni here. I think I could have played that better. Yeah, I think so. I think the main thing was that I didn't have any monster in my hand to make guiding camera, and that threw me off. I guess I had to draw on luck, but I'm just gonna assume that we'd want to keep that card in our, you know, in our in our hand for the matchup. So maybe I'll just try to replay that a bit here. Let's see, we had, this was in deck. Oh well, this was set, this was set, this was set, and this was set, and then this was basically our end field here. And so maybe the way that we get a monster in our hand in this situation is that we use the betrayal, and we just probably chain this to get an extra Omni, right? So we send this to the graveyard, and we summon out our... Oh wait, this one sends it to the graveyard for... Yeah. Oh, okay, so then we can actually go... Okay, activate this. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's a bit better. So we go activate this and send this to the graveyard to negate something on the field. And then we go activate wanted to add it back. And then we go debtors here to make our Saint. And we add our Diabell Stud to the hand. And now we have something in hand. And so here we probably just go, you know, Saint summon out Ilia Sylvia, probably better than popping 2 cards right now, something like that. And then we just go Diabell here, and we summon out like our book, and you know, it's a bit awkward because we probably have to we do probably have to fuse away our Diabell, but it's not the end of the world to do that. So we go Diabell here, sending these 3 away, and we summon out our Guardian Chimera, and we go pop 2, draw 1. Then we have a Diabell start trigger, and then we chain our Sylvie. So we summon back here, and then Diabell start trigger, we send this to the graveyard here, and we get a set. And set will probably be Deception, I think. Could also be a Subversion, pretty good Subversion set here. But let's just set Deception. And yeah, and then, you know, maybe we manage to live and we have a ton of follow-up. So that was still pretty good, and I feel like maybe you could maybe pass on the woes. But we did give them 2 draws, right? So I think what I want to try is I want to try the same hand, and I want to also not search woes, but I want to maybe just don't go into Diabell and just see, you know, what happens if we don't go into Diabell. We don't get the book, of course, That's like the main downside, but let's see. So our hand was Sylvie, Blackcoat Lath, and 2 debtors. And so of course we just start with a Sylvie. We add the tails, activate the tails, get the LZ, use these 2 here, make the make the Rigella and give them 1 draw. And then we just send probably the debtors to the graveyard. We search the fusion spell and we search the wanted. And we go activate wanted. And we add witch. And then I guess here we can just go debtors, summon back, and then just use it for witch. And then we set the betrayal. And so here we have, this is our setup here. I do want to note that we did have to sort of choose between the fusion spell and the woes in this situation, I feel like, because we had to add tails with Sylvie, and with Riziella we can choose the woes, but with LZ doesn't mean we pretty much want the wanted, right? So I don't know. I just don't know, maybe if we can even use the fusion spell here. So that's the main thing I'm worried about. I mean, I don't think that we can make guiding camera. Like if this is our M board, how does this look? Like we pretty much want to let's see. Maybe what we are fusion summoning with the quick play is or with the fusion spell is Saint, because I don't think we can really make a guiding chimera here. Yeah. So if we make Saint, if we're going to go for Saint, then we kind of need a we need a fusion monster on the board. And so pretty much we like, yeah, we pretty much need a fusion monster on the board. So we need to go like something like, okay, Sylvie here, or is betrayal, silver betrayal, tributing the Diabell Star to negate something on the field. Then, you know, Diabell Star trigger here, and sending this goat to the graveyard probably. And then she will set something, which will probably be like a wanted, maybe. And then we go like debtors, send this wanted in order to make the soul, probably to send something they have to the graveyard. And then here we go fusion, and we go, okay, turn these 2 into Saint, and Saint probably just makes Sarah Ilias, yeah. Yeah, and then I mean we do still have the goat and the draw, so that could be pretty okay. I feel like pretty alright. I guess we can try it now with, I feel like that was passable, like that was not terrible, but let's see if woes makes it a lot better, you know? Maybe woes just makes it a lot better. So let's see, we have silly and goat and debtors and debtors. And we just go silly, add tails, activate tails, get LZ as mina summon, then go these two here into Rishala, we send the debtors and we go add the we add woes and wanted, and then we go wanted and we add this card, and then we just go debtors to summon this back, we send it off for the witch, we set betrayal, we set wanted woes, we set debtors, and we set this. All right, so pretty simple, and that's of course just one draw. And so now the thing is that we do have woes here, and we probably just summon out LZ and go these two here, and we make Diabel and go Diabel, and we will add back the wanted, the woes, sorry. And this, of course, again, becomes a lot stronger if you have an Asaminos in the deck. And then here, we pretty much just go, at some point, we go, hey, we want to create a book, and we make this, and we have some triggers, we have this and this, and so we go add this and then set this card. Now we have booked them, then at some point we want to do an Omni, so we go Diabel stuff, send this for cost, then we change the debtors here, we send this to the graveyard, and we make Ilya Sylvier, and then we Omni, and then on a new chain here, we get Diabella here that wants to send something to the graveyard, and we can just send this to the graveyard. We can do this, and then, you know, Diabella star probably said something like wanted or deception. Maybe deception actually pretty good to set here, because yeah, if we do want it as follow-up. And so, yeah, was that more interruptions? It was still 2 Omnis, but this time we also had the book. Of course, we did not make a saint, and we also did not get to, you know, send something to the graveyard with soul, which might not have been better. I do think the book is probably better in most matchup than the soul. Yeah, I do think the book is probably better in most matchups. And of course we do also get the book if we give them an extra draw with the previous line, right? And so let me just go through it again, but this time not searching the woes. I want to do that again. I know I've been doing it a bunch of times, but just feel like it's interesting. We go Sylvie, debtors, goat. So we go Sylvie, and then tails, and we could really add LZ here, to be honest, but yeah, let's just try this, and then we go these two here, and we make our Rugella. We go Z as mina chaining 1, Rugella chaining 2, sending it to debtors for cost, and we add, you know, just go to add the fusion spell here, and add, of course, the wanted, and then just go wanted for which, and then just go debtors, revive back the amino set, send the amino set for the which, and then set the sever, and then we have the set. So it's basically the same, except we don't have woes, we have the fusion spell. It's pretty much just the only difference. So let me see if I can play this out a little better than I did before, because I think maybe we need to be a bit more smart about how we do this. Also, so actually, one fusion monster, one dark monster. So it does feel like it's pretty much the case that we need to make the soul in order to... Because right now there's no monsters we can fusion summon. Let me just flip all these up so I can see them. So, yeah. So the issue is we want to have to make a fusion monster so that we can summon a saint, right? Of course, it's not required that we summon Saint. It's just that the only other card that we could maybe make using the Sinful Spice of the White Forest is maybe a Dracostapelia, and the Guardian Chimera is pretty tough because I don't see how we get an extra monster in our hand. We could go Debtors and make Murcielago, and then Murcielago could add Queen as a mina. And then we would be able to make a Guardian Chimera, but then we just use one interruption in order to like free up the next interruption. So that's also a bit weird, I think. I think also it's like if you go activate Betrayal and you chain Debtors, it's kind of weird because I just usually feel when you want to omni something on the field, it's usually the only thing that's on the field. Like they have some play that they want to push, and you need to use the omni, like they use a wall breaker or something like that. I guess if we were able to do it like in a neat way, where we go activate a Sinful Spice of Betrayal, send the Diabell Star for cost, and then we go activate Debtors, and we send the Betrayal in order to make the soul, and then we Betrayal will negate, and then we get a new trigger here where Diabell Star will try to come back, and we send just one of the cards we have, and we make we summon back Diabell Star, and then here we probably want to set Deception here just for follow-up. Oh, it's probably over here. Yeah, and we want to set Deception for follow-up, And then here we go fusion summon, and we use like these two, and we make Saint, and then Saint summons back our, or summons our Ilia Silvera. So it's like we kind of end up with the same thing, but we do have, like, we get the soul instead of the book. And we don't get the Diabelle in rotation, so we are low on resources, right? So I do feel like Woes is better, to be honest. Woes is better in this scenario, but I don't know if it's enough better that it's worth it to main deck the Woes, right? Because we can clearly still do stuff with the fusion spell. We can clearly still do some stuff with the fusion spell. Is it as good? No, but you know, maining Woes also has its downsides, right? So I do think that maybe this will suffice if we get fuwalos game 1, and then obviously game 2 and 3 we have the Woes, and so we can just do that, and it's a lot better. Yeah, pretty much. Could also maybe seeing, yeah, yeah, pretty much. Let's maybe try one last test hand. Maybe just one last test hand to see how it goes. Could also maybe have the APs in case that you open up the Debtors and Deception, just so that you can search both, or if you open up Wanted and Debtors, then you can go for Deception and you can set the APs. So maybe that's a reason to play APs and Woes in the side deck. It's just for even more stuff that you can set going first. But I feel like you'd almost have too many cards to set then. Because then you'd obviously have the fusion spell, because you'd search that before if you had access to it. So you'd have fusion spell, betrayal, Woes, Debtors, and APs. Like, that's 5 sets. You know, could be pretty cool to make a set 5 combo under fuwalos by only giving them 1 draw. But I guess you have to open Debtors and oh, you wouldn't even be able to set 5, right? Because of the Deception would be on the field, but you could potentially send it to the graveyard with Black Witch, but then it would not be able to come back if you didn't have 5, if you had your zones full, but could be pretty cool to set both. Okay, let's see here. For our final test hand, we have this stuff. Okay, so we're pretty incentivized to get to Witch because we have the Betrayal. And we can set the fusion spell instead with Witch. So we can pretty much just go for the Woes line here, I think. So we just go Woes here. Oh, yeah, I guess we can just go Woes here if we had it, like, just add Woes here, then we go sets and this, and we add the Asamino set. Boom. And set the Woes here. You know what? I do maybe think we don't need to make Rusiella here. Because what would we search? We search the fusion spell, right? Or Tails. Or I guess APs. I guess APs, yeah. Yeah, if we had APs, we'd search that. But let me try this other play. Let me just try making Mud Dragon here. So we give them one draw and we go search out. We just search wanted, right? And we go wanted. And we find the witch here. I don't know, maybe if we go for Money Mad Dragon, then yeah, it should be fine. It should be fine, just as long as we don't. We need to keep this all set on the field. That's the only issue. So right now we need to send this to the graveyard to go Develsta here. And then I guess we have a bit trouble here because we could definitely. No, I think we just set the fusion spell here. I was thinking of getting Deception, but we can't really get to the fusion spell if we don't set it with the Belsa. Yeah, and then we set these four here, and so this is our in play. And then I think this is kind of cool. During our opponent's turn, we can go like, okay, activate woes, right? Summon out Rusha. And then use these two to make our book, and then get get the set add back, and then here we can just go activate fusion spell, right? And we can probably just chain the adapters to make our Omni. So we'll just chain this one and we get this, and then we use these two to fuse into Albion, and we can just use Albion and Muddy to make Dragoon. And then we had 3 Omnis. Yeah, I don't know. So it was like a book and 3 Omnis. That's like decent. Let me see what happens if we just go for Rishiala here, because that could also have been pretty good, I think. It was a pretty good hand we opened, to be fair, because we had... Well, what did we open? We opened this, and we opened these 3, right? And what more? And then the L set also. And I can't remember what was the last card we... Was it the fusion spell? No, it wasn't the fusion spell. Definitely wasn't the wanted either. It was these 3. Oh, it was 2 Sylvies. Yeah, it was 2 Sylvies. Where's the other Sylvie even? Wait, did I shuffle it? Wait, what did I even do with the second Sylvie? Is it not here? What happened? Oh, it's right over here. Oh, I'm so stupid. Okay, so let's try just going more traditional. I'm not going for Dragoon. Go Sylvie here. We had woes. Then we go send woes to the graveyard, adding a Samina set. We set the woes back. Then we just go summon here. These 2. I guess we don't really have a nice card to send to center graveyard here. Yeah. I mean, we can definitely send the betrayal to the graveyard and just go send this to the graveyard, but it's not as good, I guess. And then we add here, we add woes wanted plus fusion spell. yeah, and then we just go wanted, add the stat, and then here we can get an extra draw. We can go wanted, shuffle back this card to get some random draw, and we can just go, you know, probably just send this as offset on the field, to be honest. Sum this, and we get to set our betrayal, and then we have, you know, yeah. I guess because we did not have I guess we could have gone for a Diabell in this situation. Let's see what would have happened if we gone for a Diabell. Let me just... And give them 2 draw, and then we could have gone full set 5. Then we could have gone full set 5, I think. Because... Well, let's take these. I do think the Dragoon line was pretty cool, though. This, and this, and this, right? So we go... Sylvie, add woes. We go set, send woes, add Asmino set, and woes comes back, and then we go these 2 into Rishala, and then we just go send. Probably still just send the betrayal, and we go add wanted, and I guess this is the moment we add APs. Let me just find it. I just put it on my side deck, I guess. Add APs, and then we go these 2 here, and we give them an extra draw, and we go Diabell. We just go add back the betrayal. We go activate wanted. We go, you know, just summon back this Sylvie. And just summon back this Sylvie and send it to the grave for the Diabell star. And then we will set, let me just put this into the deck again. Then with Diabell star we will set Deception. But how do we get rid of Deception? And then we go... No, I guess we should have... I guess it doesn't really matter. We can just set the fusion spell with... yeah, we can just set the fusion spell. Yeah, we can just set the fusion spell here. And so then we have full set 5 here. Yeah, I mean, this was 2 draws. So they're gonna have a lot of cats in hand to deal with our board. But there's a lot of interruptions. Basically... Well, the thing is, we don't really have anything nice to send for Diabell. So... what we probably want to do is we lead up with the betrayal, and we'll go attribute her for cost here, and then we probably just go chain, probably just chain the debtors here, and we send this for cost. We make the Omni, and we negate something on the field. Then the Abelsa will trigger. We'll send this Sylvie in our hand to the graveyard, and then we'll get to summon her back, and then she will set something. And this is just the Diabell material we need, so we'll just set an extra copy of the fusion spell in this situation. And then here we go like Diablo, send this to the graveyard for cost. We summon out the book, and we get, you know, this sets itself back, and then get to add this to our hand, and we get the Book of Eclipse here, and then here we just go Sinful Spots of the White Forest to essentially just go make a Guiding Camera. So we just make a Guiding Camera, we draw a card, and then we still have the woes, so we go Sylvie here just to summon back out here, and we go activate the woes, and we would like to summon a Samina set, but we don't have an extra one in the deck, so we just summon out the Stellar, and we go into the book again, and then when they are tired of doing stuff, we use this Omni here. We can go, you know, bounce 3 cards on the field. I guess it's only really 3 cards on the field, so, you know. I don't know. I don't know if actually APs was that impactful in this combo. It was sort of pretty much just all the other stuff that was good. Not really APs. I guess if we had made Saint, the APs would be a little bit better. And I guess it was also just the fact that we were in a position where we could just add APs off of Rishiela, because we had all the other stuff. But this seems like a bit win more, honestly. And I definitely don't feel like it was worth it to go into Diabel here, because we gave them an extra card, and the book, the woes became sort of awkward when we went into Diabel. That's the thing, like, the woes is like awkward when you full combo. It's not that crazy when you full combo, to be honest. It's a lot better when you're on a half board and you can make it, you can use it to make Diabel, right? It's pretty awkward when you go full combo. So maybe the APs is kind of memed anyway. Maybe what I should do is play 1 copy of Woes and then 1 extra copy of Esminal set. So because this combo, the Woes gets a lot better if you can summon out your Esminal set from the deck, because then you can add the Queen Esmina, and then your Debtors will now your Debtors is just a very easy Saint. And also you also have easier access to the Guiding Camera using the Fusion Spell. So I think, yeah, maybe APs is like a bit of a meme. I think woes have proven, I think if we should summarize this, you could probably say that these 4 are the ones you want to try to set. Yeah, pretty much. Like, you want to get to which... there is a question whether or not you want to get to Debtors or whether you want to get to the Witch. And I guess it depends a bit on the matchup, because Debtors, you know, going Deception and searching Debtors, if you just want to make the Ilya Silvera using the Debtors, I mean, that is still an Omni negate, right? But you could say that the Betrayal is maybe a bit more powerful of an Omni negate, because it just negates anything on the field, whereas the Ilias Silver has to be chained directly. And also, so for example, something like, yeah, if they chain block, you cannot use Ilias Silver, but of course you cannot also only use the Betrayal on a card on the field. But basically, once you tribute off Ilias Silver, you don't really get too much anything, so it's like an Omni, but doesn't really do too much else. Whereas the Betrayal, you send it the Diabil Staff, and she'll come back and search you follow-up, and she's also a body that can help you live. So I do think that the Betrayal is a bit better than Debtors, but obviously you want both, because then you just have two Omnis, right? Because then you chain the first Omni, you just activate the first Omni, and you just chain Debtors to send this away, make the Ilias Silver. And then Woes is also really good. And then the Fusion spell is maybe a bit more tricky, to be honest. Maybe the Fusion spell is a bit tricky because you cannot really use it for too much when you're just on an empty board, right? You need some stuff. You need your probably your set in rotation so that you have something in your hand to make Guiding Chimera. You do also really want the Debtors and the... But I mean, all these other cards really help you with the Fusion spell, right? So Debtors puts a body on a field, like you can make Soul and then you can use it as a fusion material. Having the Abelstar is also, you can use that as a fusion material. And then Woes, of course, also puts bodies on the floor, on the field that you can use as fusion materials. So, yeah, I think you'd probably search these three first, and then this secondly, but it's still pretty decent. It's just that this one is kind of hard to make unless you have, you kind of need some Asmina stuff going. And then, if you only have the White Forest stuff, there's not too much you can make. And if you just have if you just have this, and you'll have to use the Debtors to make Soul, and then you can use your fusion spell to make Saint. And I think that's pretty good, but it's just that it's a bit awkward pattern because you have to change the Debtors to this, and there might not be anything you want to send to the field. Otherwise, you'd wait for the Witch to come back and set another Snaffle spell, and then you can use the Debtors on that, send it here, and then you can fuse these off for Saint. But of course, if you also have Woes, then it's just a lot easier for you to make Guiding Chimera, basically. Yeah, you can make Guiding Chimera pretty easily if you have Woes, because you can get Elset into rotation and add itself back, and also, Woes into Diabel, and then you make a, just gives you a lot of bodies on the field, basically. So yeah. I do think these four are nice. Maybe I think the A piece is just maybe, kind of overkill, to be honest. Yeah, it's basically overkill. I do also think you could maybe, you could not play Woes in the main deck if you don't think people will play Charmies against you game one. Because I feel like Woes is only really good on the draw, and on the Charmies it's not really good too much otherwise. It's a bit of a, you can combo just fine. It doesn't help you play or extend any further. You could obviously still play one in your main deck, but you could also just play it on the side. I guess it depends on how weak you want to be to Charmies game one. Yeah. I didn't really get any further on whether or not to play two fusion spells. maybe playing 2 is just a bit random. Maybe I should just play 1, to be honest. And then maybe play a second Deception or a copy of Woes, I guess. I could also play the second set as a Mina in the side deck. It seems like a meme, but I feel like it checks out. Like, it does help you going first in a lot of cases. And then it's also a lot of value if you get to use it with Woes. But I guess it's only really when you're under Charmies that it comes up. So maybe just 2 Woes is fine. And you know, you were able to do stuff without Woes against the Charmy. It's not very good, but it's definitely passable. And then Woes makes it a bit better. Yeah, lots of stuff to think about. Definitely will be playing Woes in my side though, that's for sure. At least 2, I feel like. And then yeah, let's just see. Maybe this second fusion spell should be a Deception instead. We'll also say that, you know, yeah. Having these 3 as well is also pretty decent. When you go first, right? But having the Woes is, of course, pretty strong. So maybe I should just play 1 copies of Woes in the main deck. Yeah, no, I don't really think so, because unless I get Charmy at game 1 or Drawled, I guess also Drawl. Like, Drawl is another thing I need to investigate a bit. How good is all this under Drawl? I think not really too much, because unless you just shotgun add the Woes, like you add Woes as the first thing, you won't get the opportunity to add Woes, right? So I don't know how good Woes is under against Draw, to be honest. Then again, I guess not really much is good against Draw. What's good against Draw is hard drawing debtors, that's for sure. And having simple spells to send. Alright, I think I might not really have reached a conclusion as to whether main deck or side deck Woes, and I guess it depends on how scared am I of fuwalos in particular. Because I don't think that Woes really helps too much under Perulia, to be honest. I don't think so. It's mostly just under fuwalos. So how scared am I of fuwalos? I guess that will depend on if I main Woes or not. And then I also need to figure out what to do about, you know, running 2 fusion spells. Or maybe not running 2 fusion spells. I didn't really reach a conclusion. But I think this video has been pretty long, so I'm just gonna stop it. But it has been a lot of fun making it, and so yeah, thank you for watching.